The 2024 World Video Game Hall of Fame nominees include classics like MYST, Resident Evil, and Neopets, proving that in the gaming world, even virtual pets and terrifying zombies can stand side by side, waiting for their turn in the spotlight. But let's go ahead and check out the list of all the nominees that have been garnished for this amazing opportunity.
There's some really interesting nominees on this list, actually, considering like they put Metroid, but Metroid's kind of been like the black sheep of Nintendo's three big titles for the longest time.
But you could make the I don't mean to cut you off, but you could make the argument that it's always like a game that's like, we want it back, and then it makes a new adaptation, and then it gets slammed, and then it gets a new adaptation, and then it gets slammed. It's a beloved character. But go on, Henrik.
I mean, I'm just saying, between Legend of Zelda, Metroid, and the Mario games, Legend of Zelda and Mario have always gotten the attention. Metroid's always been like, you know what? Maybe we'll come back to it someday.
I think that's an excellent point. Just to even kind of highlight again with an image here with the nominees that are highlighted amongst the World Video Game Hall of Fame for the year 2024. I'm looking at this and I see two that really stand out to me that really deserve its limelight. Asteroids for sure. That's just a classic game that kind of set the standards, for a lot of, old school PC gamers that broken computers. I know, Dad, I'm sorry. I probably busted your computer like 3 or 4 times downloading illegal hardware. But, everybody at least had this one game running either on the web or as a downloadable game. The next one for sure, the PS1. The Tony Hawk Pro Skater. Matter of fact, I would even argue and say it was just as good on the Nintendo 64. And then for the third, but I think I have a problem of why it's this one that's being highlighted compared to the one in the trilogy, and that is Guitar Hero. If we're talking the Guitar Hero 1, I have a problem with it. I think what would have been better replacement, Henrik, would have been Guitar Hero 3. Do you know where I'm going with this when I'm saying Guitar Hero 3?
I mean, it was the selection of songs, most likely, right?
It was the selection of songs, which were very legendary. But matter of fact, it was the very first video game to reach the mark of 1 billion in sales. $1 billion in sales. And so I feel like it should have been Guitar Hero 3 instead of the very first one. But then again, you see Resident Evil up there. And at first, when I saw it, before I started seeing the video collage, I was thinking, oh man, Resident Evil, that's a good selection. I mean, you go to Dave & Buster's and they're turning them into, the VR interaction with the, the gun shooting controllers, so you're thinking like, of course that needs to be celebrated. But the first one, I don't know. But Henrik, let me give you the floor because I'm pretty much laid out the lay of the land, but I want to know, is there any like top 3 games on that list that really kind of stuck out to you?
For me, it would probably be, I do love Metroid. Earlier, I wasn't bashing them. I was just surprised it was on the list. I do love Metroid. MYST, I have a great experience in my childhood playing that game and getting lost and not knowing what the heck to do next.
Yeah,
And
very
outside
true.
of that, I mean, Resident Evil definitely has a good place in my childhood too, because it's a great way for old childhood me to get into horror games.
Maybe that's something I needed to do a little bit more research when it came to like settling upon, my judgment. I don't know if they're just trying to celebrate the overall IP, and if that's the case, then that's a whole other separate conversation. But when I'm looking at strictly at the game that they've chosen, that we saw in the pictures, that's where I'm basing my
it does
judgment.
look like it's just the game that they're talking about, like the first Resident Evil, just the first Guitar Hero.
See that, and that's why I have a hard time bringing it to that limelight, and so that's why it makes me push out Guitar Hero. And then if I was going to do the third, I would say Neopets.
Okay.
Neopets was like, oh my gosh, do you remember how much that just like gravitated all throughout the elementary school years? And they're also
people
talking
still talk about them,
right? And there's even talks about a potential revival of that, that series. And I don't know if it's gonna have that same nostalgia as it did, back in the the 90s. But to see that it's coming around, I mean, I guess look out, Pokemon. Look out, Yu-Gi-Oh! Where's Digimon? But very, very cool stuff. But you, the gamers, let us know what you're vibing with. Fans can now vote to determine this year's inductees, and the voting period is happening right now until March 21st. So get your vote on, and we'll see what happens, because the inductees will be announced during a ceremony on May 9th.